Hello and welcome back to my studio. I'm Michelle and today we're painting something soft, delicate and a little bit wild. Lavender, daisies and stocks in watercolour. These combination I think is just summer in a sketchbook, don't you think? But today there's a little twist in what I'm painting. I want to talk to you about white flowers. I used to be a bit scared of them. Like, how do you paint something that's white on white paper? It's basically invisible, but I've come to love them. Daisies have taught me to trust in simplicity, in white space and the magic of restraint. Let's just look at the supplies. I've got my favourite cold pressed paper. I use usually 140 gram paper and it's got cold pressed and it's got a slight texture on it. Here it's taped down just to give a nice natural edge to it. I'm using a nice big round brush that holds lots of water with a really nice fine tip on it. Use any watercolour paint that you like, but I do like Daniel Smith or Winsor & Newton watercolour in tubes usually that I've got in my palette here. For the lavender I did use like cobalt blue, azilian crimson and a smidge of ultramarine. For the daisy centres, a soft yellow like Naples yellow is really good with a touch of raw sienna, or if you want to brighten it up a bit, I love quinacridone gold. Sorry, I can't always say that. For the greens, I like sap green and I like to mix a bit of indigo or burnt sienna for some moodiness. For the shadows, I make a neutral tint out of the blues that I have and I just add a bit of the colour that's in my palette so it all makes a lovely grey in harmony with the other colours that I've used. This is going to be a loose and expressive painting. I want the painting to look like they're growing naturally in a meadow, so I'm not going to draw out, but if you're not confident, please draw in where you want the placement of each flower. I'd already painted the lavender on this piece of paper and I thought it needed some extra flowers around it. I started with painting the centres of the daisies just to get a feel for the placement. This is where the magic happens. With a watery grey blue, I'm gently painting the shadows under the petals where they overlap. That's it, no outlines, no harsh edges, just a suggestion. I used to avoid white flowers because they felt so empty, but now I realise they are full of light and air. The negative space is part of the flower. Once I let go of the idea that everything had to be filled in, I found so much joy in painting them. If you're nervous, start with one daisy, keep the shadows subtle, step back often. You'll see the flower reveal itself through the contrast. Painting stocks is a very forgiving flower. You can go blobby with your brush and it still reads perfectly. I let the side of my brush make the petal shapes and then dropped in deeper purples whilst it was still wet. Let the colour bleed. Watercolour is a collaboration. You can nudge it and it flows. There's something deeply calming about letting the pigment do its own thing. Now I'm adding more movement, wobbly stems, some grassy flicks of the brush, nothing too neat. I want this to feel like a field you walk through barefoot, where daisies pop up wherever they please. A tip for mixing greens is don't keep them uniform colour, otherwise the painting just goes flat. Add a bit of burnt sienna or indigo for richness. I was undecided about painting a background, but watch as I bring my loose floral watercolour to life with a vibrant turquoise background. It's a bit daunting adding a background after you've painted the flowers, but now I love doing it like this. It gives me total freedom to keep the flowers light and delicate and then build up an atmosphere behind them at the end. In this piece, I painted lavender, daisies and some stock flowers and brought everything together with a juicy turquoise background full of softness, depth and a little chaos. I know a lot of artists start with the background, but sometimes, especially with white flowers like daisies, I find it easier to let them breathe first and build a world around them afterwards. I didn't want to risk losing that airy feel to begin with, and I'm not always wanting to paint a background behind flowers. This way I can respond to what the flowers needed, like a gentle breeze behind the petals or a deeper turquoise pockets to push certain blooms forward. I started by wetting around the florals and dropping in a turquoise wash, really letting it flow around the shapes. I was careful to preserve the whites of the daisies and keep the lavender airy, but I wasn't being too precious. I wanted a loose, natural look. As I moved around the piece, I deepened the turquoise in some areas to create depth, behind the daisy petals especially to help them pop. Whilst parts of the wash were still damp, I took some blotting paper and gently lifted out stem shapes. It gives a lovely faded look, like stems disappearing into the light. It's such a subtle trick, but it really adds that layered meadowy feel, like peeking through the grasses or catching a glimpse of flowers and stalks in the breeze. When the background was sort of almost dry, I added a little magic with my Colour 2 crayons. I scribbled into some of the turquoise areas and just softened them with a damp brush. It adds movement and contrast and texture that I love. I used a soft teal and a dusky lilac to tie in the flowers, just enough to give the background more interest without overpowering the blooms. I love how this technique lets the flowers be the stars. The background supports them without competing, just soft flowing colour, a few lifted out textures and those little colour marks to break the calm. If you're afraid of doing the background last, don't be. It's actually quite forgiving, especially if you keep your edges soft and your watercolour loaded. This way you can respond to the painting and bring out the bits you love most. So that's my lovely daisy meadow, lavender and a little bit of stock in between just to add that smell. I can like smell it still as I look at the painting. I hope this inspired you to embrace the white flowers and not fear the blank paper. Sometimes not painting is the most powerful mark you can make. Let me know in the comments, do you love or fear white flowers? What subject you avoided for ages but now adore? If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you fancy more watercolour wanderings. Until next time, go gently, stay curious, and don't be afraid of the white space.